back to the Nebraska Shoot Around podcast. I am your host, Jacob Padilla. Joining me, as always, is Jacob Bigelow. And also joining us for a special appearance on this week's pod is Steve Marik, the women's women's basketball beat writer for Hail Varsity. We've kind of been teasing this appearance for a while now, and are finally making it happen, considering literally nothing has happened on the men's side since the last time we recorded. So without further ado, welcome, Steve. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, Jacob. Hello, Jacob. Sorry to ruin the Jacobness of this podcast, but I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Good. Yeah. There's already there's too much Jacobness going on anyway. So
yeah, there's too many. There's a whole lot of J's, going on.
That's all right. J's are cool.
So we kind of wanted to bring you on. We kind of had this idea before we are recording this on Thursday night, and I asked Steve, I think it was early, I think the Michigan State game had already started, but about that time, it's like, hey, you want to come on? We feel like we need to talk about this team. Off to a great start, sweep the non-conference, and you agree to come on the pod, and they immediately forget how to shoot the basketball. So I guess before we circle back to that, let's kind of deal with today's game first off the bat, and just kind of just looking at it here, it was a 72-69 loss for Nebraska at Michigan State to kind of open up the bulk of Big Ten play here. Steve, what do you see? Kind of what went wrong for them today?
Yeah, quite simply put, they just couldn't shoot the basket. They couldn't put the basketball in the hoop. I mean, 33% from the field overall, I think, and from three-point range, 21%. They went 7 of 33 from behind the arc. So just a cold shooting day for the women. But like Amy Williams said in the post-game interview with Matt Coatney, she felt like they didn't really give enough effort to the paint touches, the inside game, and that she felt like, I guess, they gave up too quickly with that and just kind of settled for the 3-point shots. And as you could see, 33 of them. I kind of felt like that. Like, man, they keep going to that a lot. And it's not like they were bad 3-point shots, but they just kept taking them and kept taking them. But again, like when they had the ball down low in the paint, it's not like they're amazing at putting them in there anyway. I think they wrote it down here, 13 of 27 on layups. So that wasn't good either. They were missing some very makeable shots. So just overall, they were getting out rebounded too. It was just a rough introduction. I know they played Minnesota earlier in the season, but a rough introduction to the Big Ten slate here.
That sounds pretty familiar, don't you think, Jake?
That's a movie we've seen before. The common theme of watching movies we've seen before in Nebraska athletics. That's one we've seen. I mean, I'm just looking at this box score, and I think no matter if it's the men's game or the women's game, a game in regulation where one team attempts 73 shots, that's hard to do. That's honestly impressive. They took 15 more shots than Michigan State. I mean, 33 of those were threes. I don't think that's more than we've had to watch Nebraska take, I think. But I have to watch the men's team take, I should say. But I mean, I was trying to sneak watch this at work, which was a slow day, last day before the holiday. So I was trying to sneak watch this game. I mean, Sam Hyby, Steve, I saw you tweeting about it. She was in attack mode in that second half, and she kind of brought him back from the brink in a way.
Yeah, so that was super, super fun to watch, at least for me. Sam Hyby versus Nia Clouden, who I found out is an incredible basketball player. She is, like, what is she going to be like? She's going to be simply put, she's going to be in the WNBA soon, right?
So, yeah, just look at the box score. 17 free throws.
Yeah. She was – I wouldn't say that she was hunting contact, but, contact was finding her wherever she was going. And I have to give credit to Nia. She was just amazing at, realizing the team that her situation was in with, the depth problems that they had. Because the broadcast said that Michigan State was down 5 players.
Wow.
And their starting point guard, who started the first 10 games of the season, transferred. She entered her name in the transfer portal. So they didn't have their normal starting point guard. And so Nia Clouden comes in and was kind of just, I think she's like a 2 guard, just a shooting guard. But she had the ball for most of the game and just kind of playing in a new role and just took it upon herself and went Superman there for the game and got her team a W. It was really impressive.
Yeah, that really was a difference. She took 17.
Yeah.
She made as many free throws as Nebraska attempted. So both teams scored 30 points in the paint. Both teams made 24 shots from the field. Nebraska was +5 and made 3-pointers, so you got an extra 5 points there. But they were -8 in free throws. So that's where the math evens out to a 3-point loss. They just could not find a way, apparently, to keep Clouden off the line. And outside of Sam Hyby was 7 for 7. Alexis Markowski 5 of 6 off the bench. The rest of the team combined 1 trip to the free throw line. Bella Cravens went 2 for 2. So, and that is something that I kind of wondered about this team. Like if it isn't Hyby going to the rim, who is someone that can really go make a play off the bounce and create contact, get to the rim and finish when the 3 ball isn't falling? And it's been falling most of the season. I know in that Creighton game, it was another kind of an ugly game, grinded out, and they ended up making enough shots to pull that one out. But if it's not Hyby, who's going to step up? And I know Jazz Shelley has had a great start to the season, but 2 of 12 from 3, that's a rough one. That's a third of your attempts right there. From admittedly your best shooter, even after that game, she's shooting 46% on the season. But anytime you got somebody taking 12 threes and only hitting 2 of them, things probably aren't going super well for you.
Yeah, and when I was starting to write the post-game recap, I started off with basically just talking about Nia Clouden and how much the ball was in her hands and what she did throughout the game. But then I also, with 7 seconds left in the game, Nebraska did have a chance to tie the game with a 3, and Jazz got 3 looks at it. I would say one of them was only really a good look, but neither of them went down, obviously. But it wasn't just her. She is a player that I think can create for herself. But it's just going to be really interesting to see how she adjusts to better defenders in the Big Ten Conference now, because we've seen her just be awesome, do really great, incredible things in this non-conference schedule, but not a great start for her. But it wasn't just her. The entire team couldn't make a shot today. So not just all on Jazz, but yeah, it'll just be interesting to see what the production can translate to the Big Ten slate here.
And this is a new role for her. Coming from Oregon, she played some there, but not much. Like what we've seen from her is kind of been like, whoa, like you expected, a good player, she'll have a chance to help them, but I don't know that you expected her to be what she's been so far this season, just based on what she showed up in Eugene. So probably going to be a bit of a learning experience there as she continues to be #1 on scouting reports. I think we'll see that kind of how that plays out in the Big Ten, but that's unfortunate. Tough loss. Obviously, they're 1-1 now in Big Ten play after they came back and won that Minnesota game after almost letting it slip away. That again, Sam Hyby had a really rough game through 3 quarters, and then in the 4th quarter, even she missed a couple of layups early in that one too that hurt. And then down the stretch, she was just nails and kind of carried him to the win there. And that's going to be the nice thing for this team moving forward, is having Hyby and Shelley to play off of each other. I think as they continue to kind of work out that dynamic and try to get them both going at the same time, they'll be even tougher to guard. But let's kind of circle back here. Let's go back to the start of the season. Obviously, coming in, you had you joined us this year. You had never covered women's basketball previously, so you had no kind of prior information. I know you're asking me, you're kind of reaching out to Derek Peterson to kind of get. So what can you describe kind of your expectation level, kind of what you thought going in, and then kind of your impressions and what this team has done compared to what you thought you were going to see when you first got this beat?
Before the season started, I did not expect them to be going 12-0 to start the season. I was doing as much research as I can because, like, before I got this job, I was covering high school sports and everything like that, and I just honestly, like, college women's basketball was not high on my priority list for my career. But like once I got this job, I started obviously doing as much research as I could on the Husker team, and I saw that they went 500 last year and dealt with all the injuries and stuff at times that they did. And so I was just being prepared. It's like, okay, they're not going to be blowing teams out of the water for this non-conference stretch. But then they were. Jazz Shelley was just lighting teams up, and just from learning and just watching the games and writing about him and talking to Amy Williams, I was pretty impressed, and I did not absolutely did not expect a 12-0 start for sure. But now that I'm getting more comfortable on the beat, I'm learning about the girls, their playing styles, learning about Amy Williams. It's been really, really fun. But I got the sense that one thing I wanted to add about the Michigan State game and talking to Amy in the post-game interview was it almost like, of course you want to come out of there with a win. Like, of course you do. But it's a long season. There's a lot of basketball to be played. And there was a comment that Amy made that everybody was talking about the record with the women's basketball team, the record. They're 11-0, 12-0. I almost got a sense that they could take a deep breath, that they have a loss, and now nobody's going to be talking about the undefeated record anymore. Because that's what everybody around the media, just a lot of people that I've been talking to, it's like, oh, wow, are they going to go undefeated? It's like, no, of course not. This is a long season. This is like, this is the Big Ten Conference. From everything that I read from all the coaches from what they talk about, this is one of the best women's basketball conferences in the country. So like I said, of course, Amy wanted to get out of there with a win, of course. But now that they have a loss, I think that they don't have to feel like they have to be perfect anymore. This is kind of a good thing. They can get a deep breath out and just move on to Michigan.
Yeah, they've got a stretch with 4 straight games coming up and to start January against ranked teams.
Yeah.
At home against Michigan, at home against Iowa, number 8 Indiana, and then Iowa again. That's one way to ring in the new year for sure. My question, we've touched on Jazz Shelley a little bit. For the people who were looking for like the local ties on the team, they got a few Nebraska products playing. Tell me what you've seen from Alexis Markowski. Those of us who saw her just tear up Class A at Lincoln Pius X for what seemed like forever. It seemed like she was just dominating at Pius for a long time. There were some questions about how she played at Pius would translate to the next level, but she's found a role to start. It seems like she's notched a couple Freshman of the Week honors. And just what do you think you've seen from her?
I think that she's had a pretty good start to her career, but again, I like the role that she's in, and I like that she can learn from someone like Bella Cravens, who is a really tough, I feel like a pretty tough defensive player and just a really gritty player down on the post. So that's really good. And when Alexis comes in, I really think that she has a lot to work with, and I think that she brings energy to the team with her personality and just that winning mindset that she brought from Pius and everything, and like who her dad is and what she learned about basketball growing up, to have a great teacher like that. But I think it's pretty obvious, and she'd tell you this, that there's going to be an adjustment, learning curve that she needs to keep improving, because it's not Class A basketball anymore, especially in East Lansing. It wasn't Class A basketball. So she's going to be playing against bigger girls. She's going to be playing against stronger girls than who she's played against in her whole life, basically. So there's going to be, I think, a learning curve, and like, I think it's unfair to have too many expectations on what Alexis Markowski can do, because she's just a true freshman. This is her first year. She's learning the speed of the game, the physicality of the game, because it's unlike anything that she's probably played in her career. And then you go with Alison Weidner, from a small school girl from Humphrey St. Francis, right down the road from where I grew up in Howells. I've heard that a name for a long time, when she started bursting onto the scene. But I think she brings some good things off the bench too for Amy Williams, and gives the starting guards some break, and she does some really good things defensively. I think the offensive game is a work in progress, but again, like, she's a true freshman, that she's always working on that. But yeah, I think what those two brings, like what Amy Williams is getting out of those two in-state players, I mean, it's great right now, but it's going to take time for them to keep improving their game and adjusting to a level of basketball that they've probably never played in before.
Yeah, and just to kind of put some context to what Steve's saying, Markowski is averaging about 9 points and 6.5 boards in 14 minutes a game off the bench. She's leading the team in free throw attempts already in those limited minutes. She's gotten to the line 60 times so far this season in 13 games. So that's a pretty good rate. She's only shooting about 44% from the field for someone who takes most of her shots at the rim. And that was kind of my question, because I did see her play quite a bit in high school and saw her dominate, but I also saw a lot of it's just steal, catch, and finish. There wasn't a whole lot of her self-creation where she was showing off great post moves and jump shots and all this kind of stuff. And I kind of wondered how that would translate. And it's, to a certain degree, it has. Like, again, she's putting up good numbers for a true freshman coming off a bench. Like, you'll take that kind of production any day. So it's, I think, like you said, kind of good start for her. It's just a matter of continuing to kind of polish up her game, be able to finish a little bit better, maybe add a little bit more in the post. But I think she's given you probably all that Amy Williams could have asked for at this point. And Weidner, kind of as a backup point guard, 3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. You mentioned kind of defensively, just does a lot of little things. She's a really good athlete. And that's kind of where her game starts. And again, you mix good decision-making with athleticism, and you get somebody that can be a nice little spark plug off the bench so far this season. The jumper's not falling, but she's getting to the rim at a nice little rate, and again, making good decisions. So
yeah, that's a good point, because I can't remember which game it was after where she was up at the post game podium, and I asked her, like, so, like, what do you think about the jump shot right now? Your jump shot, like, where's it at? She was pretty honest. She's like, it's not like where I want it to be, obviously, but what I'm most comfortable at is going to the hoop and taking some contact too, because she's not like a super small guard either. She's got some size to her, so that's good. And then just one more thing with to touch on with Alexis, she'll be the first one to tell you that she needs to shoot the free throws better too, because I think she's hovering around like 66%. So she knows that she's going to get fouled when she gets the ball down there. So just to raise up that free throw shooting percentage is going to do her wonders, and she knows that.
Yeah, and you're right on 65%. And Weidner is at 1 for 9 from 3 on the season, and she's shooting 50% inside the arc. So pretty good there. It's just a matter of, again, continuing to kind of polish up that skill set. And I think that freshman class has been pretty really lived up to expectations for Williams so far, and it's provided the team with a lot of depth that they didn't really have last year because of all the injuries. And they've still got some people on the shelf with injuries right now. But Williams is able to recruit a really deep team that is a lot of players. And it's really balanced. Like, you look at the scoring sheet, they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different players averaging between 7 and 14 points. So it's not like you've got a superstar that is dominating 99 out. They're doing it with balance. And we talked about Shelley. She's a transfer from Oregon, obviously Australian, who, when she entered the portal, saw her friends here looking for other people from back home. And Izzy Bourne as one of the best players on the team. And then, and Ruby Porter is the other one. So she comes to Lincoln, and out of the gate, she's averaging 14 points, about 7 boards, about 5 assists a game, close to a 3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, shooting 47% from 3, even after that 2 for 12 performance, 80 from the line, 49% from the field. So she's leading the team in steals, leading the team in blocks as a point guard.
I didn't realize that because she's 5'9", and I didn't realize that she was going to be such a beast on the boards. Like, she had one today at Michigan State where she just flew out of nowhere. I don't know if she was in the TV screen, but she just like came in and she was like halfway like twisting, and she just snatched it out with 2 hands just perfectly, and it got the offense another possession. So it's just like, she's doing all this. She's averaging 6, almost 7 rebounds as a 5'9" guard, and like you said, leading the team in blocks too. She's just a baller. It's really fun to watch.
That's what I was going to ask. Kind of how does she get it done? Like, what is her playing style for those that haven't seen a ton of the team just yet?
She's like fast. She plays so fast. When she has the ball and she's like just leading a fast break, her eyes are up. She's whipping passes, one-handed passes, and they're accurate too. Like that, it's the most fun thing to watch, just like when she has the ball, because it looks like she's just having so much fun. And like I said, the speed of the game, she's like speeding everything up, and her teammates are running along with her. And it's like those one-handed whip around passes are so fun to watch. And when she's looking for her shot, boy, that 3-point shot is quick. There's not a lot of wasted movement, and she is looking for her shot too. And like you said, she has a despite her poor performance from behind the arc tonight or today, it's been pretty good for the most part so far. And I think she's gonna get it back going here pretty soon.
Yeah, and then so obviously she's leading scorer, but you've got Sam Hyby and Izzy Bourne coming back from last year as kind of the team leaders and their best players, and they're averaging both around 10 a game, both about 4 boards a game. Hyby's leading or second on the team in assists rather, behind Shelley. What have you seen from those two, and kind of how that dynamic has kind of started to mesh with Shelley coming in as a big time playmaker, and those two kind of playing off of her?
Yeah. So what I've kind of seen and what I've kind of gathered from listening to Amy Williams talk about Sam Hyby, and I did a feature story on her for the Hail Varsity magazine too, and talked to her about what it was like last year. And she said that sometimes she felt like there was just a lot on her shoulders on that team last year. And I know they had some depth problems and stuff, and so she had to just take a little bit more. I guess she just had a lot on her shoulders, and some nights it was just like Sam Hyby. She really didn't have a lot of help from last year, but it's not this way. It's not that way this year. I mean, this year Jazz is helping out. Ashley Scoggin is a nice outlet to toss it out on the perimeter for a 3-pointer. She's got a lot more help than she did last year. And with Sam, I think you're kind of seeing it right now when they're getting into these tough moments against these Big Ten teams. The ball is finding Sam Hyby, and Sam Hyby is really, I guess, taking it upon herself. And she's got that mindset that she's really gonna take the ball to the hoop, and she's being more of a leader and kind of like a tough-minded player when it gets down to the nitty-gritty, I guess, in these basketball games. And with Izzy Bourne, that's a player who I think if you asked her, she thinks that she'd probably say that she needs to be better to start this season. I know she started out hot, but recently I don't know if it's been up to the standard that she probably is expecting. So I know, it's really just, I guess she needs to just get in the flow of the offense and the defense. And I think that'll come because I think she was a second team all conference player last year. She has talent. She has the ability to stretch the defense with that 3-point shot. But I think that's one player that needs to, I guess, I don't know, play better, but it's a long season. And today's loss was just another kind of poor performance, but it's a long season and there's a lot of basketball left to be played.
Yeah. She's been in single digits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6 of her last 8 games.
Yeah.
And that's, again, as an all-conference caliber player. I mean, she's not necessarily playing poorly, but she's capable of more. And kind of the thing that I kind of highlighted going into this year is the 3-point shooting. And because that kind of seems like the next step for her, because she's a talented player in the post. As kind of but it's not like she's a true center. She's more of a forward that can play some out on the perimeter. And so she's not someone that you can just drop it in the post against everybody and get a bucket anytime. If she can add that kind of inside out game a little bit more, be a little bit more consistent with that 3 ball, it would make her so much more difficult to defend. And so far this season, she's right at 29%, which is, I think, kind of around where she's been for her career. 7 of 24, and she's 8 of 21 from the free throw line, which is very strange.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that's kind of going to be the key for Bourne, is continuing to develop that perimeter shot to go with the post touch to kind of just diversify her game a little bit more. But Nebraska as a team, even after the terrible performance today, is shooting 37% from three. You've got Ashley Scoggin at 44% to go with Shelley at 47% as kind of your main snipers. And then Annika Stewart shooting right around 40% off the bench. And I know Amy Williams spoke highly of her improvement in recent years. What have you seen from her this season?
Yeah, so that was a player with Annika who wasn't playing too much, but recently in these last 3 games, I think she's kind of like showed that she's able to stay out there on defense too, because of, it's nice to have Annika out there for what she brings us on the offensive side of the court as a 6'3" forward who can kind of step out and make I guess slower, bigger post players try to defend out there on the perimeter, but. Yeah, I mean, she brings a nice 3-point shot, and coming off of her career high against Wyoming, where she had 3 of them and 21 points for a career high. I think Amy Williams wants to see more of that, but to keep her out there for her offensive traits, she needs to see it on the defensive side too. And I think that's an area where I think Annika is still growing, but again, she's a young player, so. Amy Williams is playing a lot of young players. I kind of need to remind myself that a lot when I'm watching the team. But Annika Stewart's a really interesting player because she brings that 3-point shot at 6'3" that you don't really see too often in women's basketball.
Yeah, and so 12-1, obviously 12-0 in the non-conference. Obviously, everybody, a lot of Nebraska fans were on the rank them train. They're calling what, and like, can't believe that they're not in the poll, all this type of stuff. And
they were number 7 in the NET rankings, like the net rankings. They're number 7, so it's fine. They're high up in another ranking, a more important ranking.
Yeah, that's more important. And the other thing is Nebraska was playing really well. That's the important thing. But they got to continue winning, and they've got to beat other teams that are ranked. I mean, before, I guess, what would you say is Nebraska's best win so far this season, just from what you've seen? I mean, they beat Minnesota, Wake Forest, Creighton. I think those are probably the 3 high major teams that they've played so far this season before this Michigan State loss.
I'd probably put her on the Minnesota win, because in that game they had to come back and scrap and fight and claw to get out of there with the win. I think that's their best win, and it was a really good win too. Talking with Amy after the game, she said that it really it bodes well for the rest of the season that they went in there, had a lead against Minnesota, lost it, but then had the composure and had the ability to come back and get that win, to get that come from behind win. So I'd have to put it on Minnesota for sure.
Yeah. So Nebraska, again, they haven't even played anybody, I don't think, that's even getting votes in the poll. So that's really the explanation. I have not studied all the resumes for all the other teams. Obviously, reputation plays a big part in the AP poll, especially early in the year. I'm sure there are probably there maybe a couple teams in there that are in there off their name more so than what they've done so far. But at the same time, if you are a team that starts outside the poll, you got to do more than just win. You got to win. You got to beat good teams. That's how you get your way into the poll. And Nebraska is going to get plenty of chances to do that in the Big Ten, as the conference is one of the better conferences in women's basketball. Again, they've got some really talented players, and they've got the road does not get any easier for Nebraska with that Michigan game coming up next, particularly with Naz Hillman, and then familiar face and Leah Brown coming back as well.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see Hillman play. I've read a lot about her and watched some highlights on YouTube. So just to get to watch a player of her caliber live is going to be pretty fun.
Yeah, and Brown, so I watched him a lot when she was still here in Nebraska, and she is a really talented scorer. And I think she's found a good place for herself back in Michigan. It's unfortunate that she didn't stick around in Nebraska. She could have been a big piece here, but again, you gotta go. You only get 4 years to play in college. I guess 5 with the COVID year, depending on the decision you make. But you got to go somewhere where you're comfortable. And I think both sides have worked out pretty well. Nebraska's in a good place right now, and Brown gets to go play for one of the better teams in the country alongside a bona fide women's basketball superstar. Bigelow, you got anything?
No, I mean, you think you summed it up pretty well. They get the matchup with Michigan, then they get the Caitlin Clark experience coming to PBA on Sunday the 9th. And then they get to face I'm pretty sure Indiana was in the women's Final Four last year.
Top 10 right now?
Yeah, top 10 right now. And it's quite the stretch, but
and then Iowa again.
And then Iowa again. I mean, that's that stretch right there. I mean, just based on their start, that's all the more reason to just be tuned into this team. They've been fun to watch so far, and now they get to kind of show us what they're made of and the gauntlet that is the Big Ten. So I'm excited, and I appreciate Steve providing some insight for us.
Yeah, it was fun to come on and talk some ball with you guys.
Yeah. Okay. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Now, I promised Steve if he was going to come on that we had to talk a little bit NBA. If you're unaware that Steve is a Sacramento Kings fan somehow. I think pretty sure he's the only one I've ever met in person. But
definitely in Nebraska.
For sure. But yeah, a big win for the Kings the other night with Chimezie Metu knocking down the game-winning three-pointer at the buzzer.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that last play, it was beautiful. Let me take you guys through it. De'Aaron Fox, he's just beating his defender off the dribble, and he's got a clear lane to the hoop. So what does the Mavericks defenders do? Slides into the lane to protect the hoop, leaving poor old Chimezie Metu out in the corner, and bam, he drills it right in front of the Dallas bench. Oh, he's a fun young player, guys.
And it was a 2-point game at that point too. So it's like, yeah. Fox could have tried to put something up, go for the tie. Like, nah, let's go for the win here. And why not? At this point, you've got Chimezie Metu will probably never be in that situation again in his life. I can't say that because of this stretch. You never know who's going to be available. He could be, and we could face this multiple times throughout the rest of the season with the Kings down players. But that is kind of obviously right now. I think sports as a whole are in a very bad place just because of the Omicron variant and how the impact it's having on sports and roster availability. And the one upside of that is it is providing an opportunity for guys like Chimezie Metu, who's been on the Kings all year. It's not like he's one of these 10-day hardship guys, but fully healthy team. He's not going to be out there on the court in that situation. And again, who knows how if he ever will be again, but that's going to be something. That's a memory that guy who has worked hard to make it in the NBA. I mean, he's kind of bounced around the fringes of the league. I think he probably played overseas at some point. He was a good college player, but just a little bit of a tweener, and hasn't really quite latched on anywhere. And then with the Kings, he's getting a chance this year, and to go out there and step up in that big moment. That's what sports are about, is taking advantage of the opportunities you give, working hard, and doing whatever you can with them.
Well said, Jacob. I think you should write a column on that.
I'm sure I'll get plenty of opportunities. We'll see if it hits a little bit closer to home. So far, we've been lucky with the programs we cover that there hasn't been a ton of impact. Obviously, I went through that last year, but at that point, it shut the program down entirely. There was no, all right, who's going to step up? It's everybody is sick. We can't play.
And then we're gonna have to play 15 games in 30 days.
Yeah.
So, well, hopefully we don't reach that point again. Yeah. Steve, I will tell you, I won't call myself a Kings fan, but you do have someone else in the state of Nebraska who pays attention to the Kings.
Oh,
because I believe he's my second cousin. He is their director of social medias. So the Kings have a pretty well-known.
Really?
Social medias are pretty fun. They're a little goofy sometimes, but
they're really good. Yeah,
they're pretty good. They're pretty good. But yeah, that's my cousin Jason out there,
Wow.
out
That's a
there
connection.
running the Kings' social medias. So I'll pay attention to the Kings, and mostly because everyone wants to talk what ifs with Nebraska basketball. I will tell you, one of my favorite what ifs is what if Tyrese Halliburton comes to Nebraska, because that's who it was down to between Iowa State and Nebraska, and I got to drive him around campus on a golf cart on his official visit to Lincoln.
How was he? Was he cool?
He was an awesome kid. It was an awesome kid, super nice, super good family, and let me tell you, I thought he was special when he was a senior in high school coming on a visit. I was like, Miles, we need that kid. We need that kid bad. And Miles just looks at me and goes, "Oh, I know. I'm aware. I know. I know we need him."
Thank you, Jacob.
Yeah, I'm just like, hey, that would be good. But that's one of my that's stayed with me ever since that day. I thought the world of Tyrese, and when he fell to the Kings, I was like, that's a steal. So
I'm ready to pull the plug on. I love the guy, but I'm ready to pull the plug on Fox and just have Halliburton and Holmes H&H. That's the future of the Sacramento Kings. H&H. You tell Jason that, all right? Haven't put in a word.
Huge Rashawn Holmes fan. That dude is awesome. I miss him on the Suns. And on that note, Bigelow, you missed out on Halliburton in Nebraska jersey. I missed out on Halliburton in Suns jersey because
that you did.
For whatever reason, he decided he wanted to go to Sacramento. I don't know who does that voluntarily. But
to hang out with Vivek.
Put out the story that, like, to the other teams, like the Suns, like, hey, don't draft me, let me slip or whatever. He looked really good in a Suns uniform right now. But I think he's in a good spot. He's got a chance to kind of flourish with the Kings, and the Suns obviously just nearly won a title and have the best record in the league right now. So I think all parties, except for Nebraska, missing out on Tyrese, but the rest of them, I think everybody ended up in a good situation. So, Steve, we appreciate it. Thanks for coming on. We'll have to make this a regular feature here on this podcast. We'll catch up with you sometime again down the season, maybe after a big win or something like that, to chop it up a little bit more about Amy Williams' team, because they deserve all the attention and more.
Absolutely. They're playing a great brand of basketball, and they're really fun and deserve more attention. And thank you, Jacob and Jacob, for having me on.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate you, man.
So, that was Steve Marik covering the women's team. Again, follow him on Twitter. He's done a great job of covering, kind of diving head first. It's just Steve_Marik, Marik. And you can follow his write-ups on the website at hailvarsity.com. It's been a fun season so far. Hopefully this will be a minor blip and they can kind of get back on track. But like you said, that's going to be a tough stretch coming up here, and they're going to face some of the best players in the college game right now. So, and Steve will be there to recap it all. Fortunately for us, now it's time to talk the men's team a little bit.
Now it's back to reality. Now it's back to fun. First off, I want to lead off by apologizing to my literature fans out there. I misquoted Dune last week. I'm so used to downtrodden thoughts from Nebraska athletics that I said hope kills the mind when really fear does. But you can say there's a little bit of hope and fear with Nebraska men's basketball at the same time, ironically enough. Sunday, next game scheduled is against Ohio State. Ohio State's been on a Big Ten pause. Not Big Ten pause, COVID pause. Yeah. They haven't played a game since December the 11th. They were supposed to go out to Vegas, playing the CBS Sports Classic against, I think they were supposed to play UCLA. Maybe it was either UCLA or one of the I don't remember exactly, but that game got canceled. They haven't played a game since December the 11th, but I did. I checked before we hit record tonight. It looks like they had everyone return to practice today, which is good to see. I know Fred Hoiberg's scheduled to talk to the media tomorrow, so you can get follow along with Jacob for more clearance from the coach on what things are looking like. But yeah, with a week off to prepare, my number one thought is this is probably prime time for the installation of more of this quote unquote new offensive mantra or mindset Plenty of install time, I'd say, between the Kennesaw State game last week and Sunday. And plus, they've got a little bit of good momentum to go along with it after the way they shot the ball.
Yeah, and that is kind of when Hoiberg kind of alluded to the changes that were going to be coming, and then immediately ran into all the illness that kept everybody off the practice court. And then once they did have time after the Auburn game to try it again, Derek Walker got banged up, and he was supposed to be a big part of some of the tweaks that they were planning to make. So yeah, it's just kind of been a rough stretch, but Hoiberg's like, I got to do something here. That's what he decided to do. And he talked about a little bit, just kind of obviously not offering up all his secrets or anything, but talked about just putting some guys in different spots. Whereas now they're trying to get Derek Walker down the court sooner. Instead of having him take the ball out and inbound it and kind of rim run, they're having the 4 be the inbounder that allow Walker to just take off and kind of rim run early on. And then you bring the 4 down the court as the trail man. So that's just a kind of a tiny little tweak that puts guys in different positions, gives you a chance to establish Walker in the front court a little bit sooner, maybe get a deep post touch where you can kick it out to a guy cutting, you can put a move on and go score. Because he has been probably the steadiest player, the most impressive player on the team so far, just in terms of you average all the good and bad. And he's been solid this year. So it only makes sense to try to use him more often, because you look at kind of their play distribution, and they post up, they're posting up 33% of their possessions, despite shooting almost a point per possession, which is really good in the post. And Walker's the primary reason for that. So that's and then that doesn't even include the passes out of the post, which they rank even better. They're at almost 1.082 or 1.082 points per possession, which is in the 94th percentile nationally, including passes out of the post and post scores. So that's an area and you look at this team, you can go check it out on hailvarsity.com. I kind of wrote about, recap the entire non-conference and where they stand at this point with however many games under their belt now. And Nebraska's actually good at a lot of things offensively. It's just, those just aren't the main things that they do. It's kind of all secondary. So they're a very good cutting team. They're 86th percentile on those play types. It's only 7.6% of their possessions. They're very good in isolation, which 75th percentile. That's 6.6%. And that's not one that you necessarily want more of, because it's a low efficiency shot overall, but it's something they've got in the bag. The pick and roll man, when they finally are able to, when they run that pick and roll and the guards are actually looking, they've been very good at that, 76th percentile. Offensive rebounds, they're very good at, converting those into buckets. And then the post up. Again, so they're good at a lot of things. They've been effective at a lot of things, but the problem is the spot ups are taking up 23% of Nebraska's possessions, and they're scoring 0.841 points per possession, 21st percentile. Transition. We all know that Fred Hoiberg loves to run. That's a big part of his system. They are scoring barely over a point per possession, 46th percentile. That's 17.5% of their possessions. And then the pick and rolls, they're average at that as well, 43rd percentile, 0.724 points per possession, and that's almost 17%. So that's the 3 play types that form, 30, 40, almost 60% of your offense, you're average or below in those areas. So it doesn't really matter how well you cut, how well you post up, if the volume is so low that those numbers kind of cancel it out. And a lot of that combination of the turnovers recently that have picked up, but the 3-point shooting, it really comes down to that. And that's a lot of those spot up numbers. That's a lot of the transition numbers, or either the turnovers or missed threes. And that transition number actually was much worse. It was buoyed by the Kennesaw State game, where they were really good in transition. and that also boosted their overall kind of shooting numbers. So that's the problem right now. They're not very good at what their offense is built around, and they've got to find a way to maybe tweak things, tweak the focus to where they are doing more of the things that they're having success with. Either that or start doing this your kind of bread and butter better.
Yeah, and looking ahead to Sunday, they're kind of going up against a team that does almost the exact opposite of what they do in almost every aspect of the game. Ohio State, they don't really, I mean, this has been the case whether it was under Thad Matta or under Holtman. They are surgically slow. And it may not be the prettiest basketball to watch, but they do things efficiently. They're top 10 nationally in adjusted offensive efficiency. Their effective field goal percentage very high. The threes they take are smart threes. They don't shoot a lot of them, and their bread and butter is in the mid-range game and inside with guys like EJ Liddell, Zed Key, and Kyle Young. EJ Liddell was first team all conference, and the way he's been playing so far, averaging 20 and 7 a game. I mean, he might be an All-American if the season ended today. He's been playing incredibly well, and it'll be a big test for Derek Walker and the rotation of forwards for Nebraska on Sunday, I think. Yeah,
they spot up. They're in the 97th percentile, averaging 1.114 points per possessions. That's really good in the post, which again, you start with Liddell, but Zed Key is really effective down there. Kyle Young plays hard. They've got multiple big bodies in the front court that they can throw out there. And they're posting up on 16% of their possessions and scoring 1.1 points per possession, which is absurd. That's in the 98th percentile. There aren't many teams that are more effective in the post than they are. So yeah, this is a team that's going to really put a lot of pressure on Nebraska's interior defense. And we'll see. They're going to have to keep Derek Walker out of foul trouble, and they're going to have to find a way. Fred Hoiberg talked about experimenting more with the Walker, Eduardo Andre front court, which is kind of interesting. I don't know that that's something that I would be super excited about, but the problem is I don't know if they've got a lot of other options. But I don't know that right now, Andre is really struggling. And they are worse when he is on the court. Like I've been tracking, obviously plus minus is super, super noisy. And it's not something that you ever want to take on its own. But it kind of over the long haul, it does, I think, illustrate some things. And right now, Eduardo Andre in his 123 minutes this season is by far the worst on the team at minus 53. The next worst is Keisei Tominaga at minus 20 in 276 minutes. So that's the gap we're talking about right now in terms of the main rotation players. So he's got to find a way to play better. And I don't know that putting him next to Walker is a way to do that necessarily. But with Wilhelm Breidenbach out, they're going to have to find a way to match up with a team with front court size at both spots, where a guy like Liddell is going to share the court with Key. He's going to share the court with a Kyle Young, where maybe those guys aren't necessarily like the Purdue size behemoths, but they're strong. They're physical.
They're smart. They're smart, man. I mean, that's the one thing you're going to get from a Chris Holtman coach team. I really like Chris Holtman. I've heard a lot of good about him, through the grapevine in the Big Ten. It's just they play smart. I mean, they do everything it's surgically precise. I mean, and Liddell's only 6'7", but I mean, he is very strong. He's not afraid to try to play a little bully ball inside if he gets the chance. The thing with Ohio State is, they have, Liddell's probably the only guy on the roster who's like a set the world on fire kind of guy. I mean, Key's had his nights. Their guards have kind of been a little suspect. They got Jamari Wheeler, who is a Penn State transfer, but they haven't really gotten anything crazy out of their guards. So I wonder what that matchup will look like for guys like Verge. And we'll just have to see on Sunday. This matchup is definitely, I mean, every game in the Big Ten's a test, but this one is looking at the matchup on paper, it's kind of scary, but also kind of intriguing at the same time, because it's two very contrasting teams in terms of build and style of play.
Yeah, and that Justice Suing has been one of their better scorers last year, who has barely played this year because of stuff he's been dealing with. You mentioned Jamari Wheeler, who started all 10 games at the point. He's a good passer. I think he's a pretty decent defensive player. He's just not a scorer. Like, he's actually been efficient offensively himself and is still only averaging 6 points a game. So he's a guy that is much more interested in passing the ball and setting other guys up than looking for his own shot. Michi Johnson has really struggled with efficiency. Malachi Branham, same deal. Cedric Russell is another transfer that's not really giving them a whole lot in the backcourt. I think, I believe, anyway. And then, so they're struggling to find that perimeter kind of balance to complement their front court, where their three leading scorers are Liddell, Key, and Young, the three guys that I mentioned as their post players. And Key and Young are both 6'8", but Key's like 245, Young's kind of 225, rock solid, plays really hard. So it is going to test Nebraska. They're going to have to send some help in the paint, and they're going to have to do it without leaving wide open the shooters, because a guy like for Justin Arns, 43% on almost 6 attempts a game. Like, you can't have Arns man double down and then not have somebody rotate. They're going to have to fly around. They're going to have to play defense on a string. I talked about this before. It was kind of the same deal with some of the other matchups where Nebraska's going to have a tough time guarding straight up, especially. It'll be interesting to see what they do the matchups. I would assume that we see Walker on Liddell, but that leaves Latmayen on Young or Key, whoever's in the game at that point. Maybe you try Mayen on Liddell for stretches, and Walker does kind of guard whoever the kind of the pure post is there. That's a tough decision that Hoiberg and his staff are going to make, like, what gives us the best chance to succeed. And again, they need Walker on the court. They can't have him getting in foul trouble. So that's going to be really tough. And this is just a really tough matchup. They're going to need a lot from their perimeter to be able to kind of offset what Ohio State is going to get from its bigs.
And then, just like we were saying when we were talking with Steve about the women's team stretch, we're talking about how they get to open the full league play slate with a very long, lanky team in Ohio State, and they get to follow it up with a road trip to the Breslin Center to take on Michigan State, who is also just another long team that plays strong, and all their leading scorers are forwards too. So, I mean, we'll probably, if I had to guess, we'll probably record next week after that game wraps up and you get your gamer done. And but yeah, Big Ten play is here. After a long stretch, a long week off, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
There's been, there hasn't been any big results really since the teams have came back from the holiday. I think probably the score that stuck out to me the most was Purdue allowing 90 points to Nicholls State at Mackey Arena.
Wow, I didn't even see that.
They won. I think 104-90. Nicholls State. I was talking to a friend of mine who's in the coaching ranks, and we were talking about that game, and he just was talking about Nicholls State's coach, and he's like, that guy is a ball coach. He's just like, that guy is a ball coach. They play blazing quick. They play smart. They played Wisconsin earlier in the year, only lost by 3 to them at the Kohl Center in Madison, but Purdue gets by there 104-90. Wisconsin escapes Illinois State. Iowa rolls Western Illinois. Western Illinois, coming off a loss to UNO, goes to Iowa City and loses there. But yeah, nothing really of news of note in the Big Ten since we last spoke. Can probably wrap it up with talking to you about where you've been camped out the last couple days. You've been all over the place for holiday high school tournaments. You spent the past couple days at Baxter Arena for the Metro Holiday, and then you just got back from the Hack Tourney final. Some teams or some players who have stood out to you. I know there's still the Metro finals are tomorrow, New Year's Eve, and then back to the grind of the high school season. Who stood out to you in these holiday tournaments and would be worth the price of admission for some of our listeners?
Yeah, first off, should probably start with kind of what's been unique about this Metro tournament is the use of a shot clock, a 35-second shot clock. And to be honest, I don't think it's had a huge impact. At least the impact, you haven't really felt it. It just looks like you're watching a basketball game. There have been a handful of shot clock violations and like desperation shots. There have been a couple of errors, whether it be an official doing something incorrectly or an incorrect reset or something like that, or it started too soon or something like that. But for the most part, it's been pretty smooth. And there have been about as many times where I've seen kids go make plays late in the clock as there have been just chucking up a prayer that had no shot. So it's been pretty good basketball. And then I go and watch the Hack tournament games today, and I think you feel the absence, like from going and watching those games, and then because there was some stalling in both games, and teams did have leads in the fourth quarter, and we're just kind of playing stall throughout the last 8 minutes of the game. And that's really where the shot clock impact will be. It'll be the last minute of each quarter, and then the fourth quarter if the team's got a 2 or 3 possession lead, where typically you see a lot of real stalling and trying to run as much time as possible off because you've got the lead and you don't need to rush. At this point, you got to continue to execute if you want to hold on to that lead. So I think that's where the impact has been most felt. And I think as we eventually, get a shot clock continuing to spread throughout high school, it'll improve the game from that aspect. As far as the on-court play itself, man, we saw the kind of the rematch of Millard North and Omaha West Side on Wednesday night in the semifinal there, and Millard North kind of won the first game easily, and West Side got him back and kind of took control in the fourth quarter and pulled away late to even the series at 1-1 and knock off the Mustangs for the first time this season. And David Hardman kind of tore them apart in the first game, scored at 24 points, I think. They did a great job. They're icing off every ball screen. They were limited as opportunities to get in the paint, and Millard North just couldn't quite get enough out of everybody else. Besides Jason Green, who was spectacular. And after Westside had kind of taken control, he made some incredible plays to try to get the Mustangs back in the game, and ultimately just kind of ran out of time. But he finished with 26 points, 5 blocks, like 12, 13 rebounds. I forget what it was, but he was phenomenal. And Josiah Dotzler in the other semifinal, where Bellevue West kind of pulled away or held on against Omaha Central in a game where you look at the stars certainly showed up in that one. Between Dotzler, William Kyle, the third for Bellevue West, and then Jay Dawson and PJ Davis for Central, combined for 90 points. Each kind of the big two scored 45 points apiece combined. And that's what you want, stars showing up and playing career high 25 points for Davis. Dawson added 20, although a lot of that, he knocked down his first 3 threes right out the gates. And then I think Bellevue West did a good job of limiting his opportunities in the second half. But Dotzler, he had a number of like shots around the rim that normally makes kind of rim outs that drag down his overall efficiency. He makes a few of those bunnies, and we're looking at a monster game. He finished with 27 as it was. I think 7 rebounds, something like that, 4 or 5 steals, 4 or 5 assists. Like and it was a 1-point game late, and he went down in 2 tough plays to the rim finish, and then an and one as well to kind of give them the lead, and they were able to hold on the rest of the way. So really looking forward to that final between Bellevue West and Westside. That'll be fun. Westside, Chandler Meeks had a really good stretch, and Tate Advadi has had a really good season so far. He's been really efficient with his scoring opportunities. So it's been a fun week at Baxter Arena for sure.
Then how about that hack final today for some of our Lincoln listeners? I'll give a special shout out to a fellow member of the former Nebraska basketball manager fraternity, Lincoln Northeast coach Bonnie Ritchie. His Rockets are 9-0, and they bring home the hack tourney title today.
Yeah, so they held on for a 51-48 win at the buzzer. Pius actually had a bank three go in, but it was clearly still in his hands at the buzzer. Brady Christensen wasn't able to get it off in time. So I don't know if that makes it like if it feels even worse, the fact that it went in. But yeah, it was never going to count. And Lincoln Northeast just continues to get it done. Particularly, they've been winning with a lot of offensive balance, where a lot of different guys could kind of step up and lead them in scoring in a given day. Today, it was G. Gatnor, transfer. Who I think he started at Northeast, transferred to Lincoln High, and then came back this year. And 19 points off the bench, only missed 2 shots all day. He was phenomenal, taking care of his or taking advantage of the opportunities they gave him. And then defensively, they just made everything tough for Pius. And Sam Hostreiter scored 4 points in the second half. Did not attempt the field goal. He was fouled twice. That was it. That's all they made other guys beat him, and guys like Jack Hostreiter and Jared Bohr couldn't get enough shots to fall to kind of win that game. So it was a great defensive effort from Northeast, and they've had a really strong start to the season with it. They go about 6-7 deep. That's it. But all 6 or 7 of those guys can make an impact at any time, and that's what got them the win on Thursday, I guess.
Yeah, so that's we've checked all 3 levels. We did a little high school, did a little NBA with Steve, and of course the college ranks, both the men's and women's games. We checked all the boxes this week. Like we said, Sunday evening, right? It's like, what time is that game? 5?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock? Okay, yeah. Not the mid evening like we got with Kansas State. Traditional 7 o'clock start on Sunday against the Buckeyes, followed by a trip to the Breslin Center to kick off Big Ten play for the Huskers. Follow along with Jacob for Fred Hoiberg's comments tomorrow, leading into the game, as well as the game recap and the weekly column. And obviously, big thanks to Steve Marik for coming on tonight to talk about the women's team with us. Follow along with him, and yeah, those are my shameless plugs for the good folks at Hail Varsity. Jacob, you got anything special coming down the pipe, working on, or just continuing to do your thing, man? Just checking off all the gyms in the state for the year.
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to having some games to potentially cover again. It's we've had a big gap in the schedule here in terms of Nebraska, at least. So we'll start to get a little bit busier here, both on the website, on the podcast, on Twitter. So you can follow us along at all those places. Subscribe if you haven't already. Tell your friends to subscribe if you haven't done that as well. We appreciate the support, and we will talk to you again next week.
A Hurrdat Media Production.